Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to use the amortization table that was provided to you for your homework. You have to use it to answer a couple of questions on your homework, and then I'm also going to show you how you could create your own because it's actually pretty easy. So what I have open here is basically what your amortization table should look like when you open it. And you'll notice that these numbers over here are just blank. Okay, so those are the values you're going to have to fill in. And then Excel is going to do most of the work for you. So this is pretty much already set up. But then I'm going to show you how we could actually create our own if you didn't want to use this template. So let's just deal with a principal of, let's say, $250,000. So I'm going to type 250,000 in there. Let's do an APR of 5.5%. And let's do a 30-year mortgage. So you'll notice, first of all, that the payment is calculated for you. And they have just used this formula here in Excel where they're using term and principal, where the principal is the value that's in this cell right here, and the term is in this cell right here, and then the APR is in the cell right here. So all of that's already set up for you. So this allows us to figure out that a $250,000 home with 5.5% APR for 30 years would cost $1,419.47 every month. So this is already pretty much set up for us, and all we have to do is we just have to drag our formulas down. So I want to point out a couple of things. First of all is that it's not going to work right away. You have to copy all of the formulas down and then everything will populate. So if you get zeros all over the place first, it doesn't mean that you did something incorrectly, it just means that you're not done yet. So the very first thing is I'm going to copy this formula here all the way down. So you can go to the bottom right corner of your cell till you get this solid plus sign, and then you can just double click and it's going to highlight all the way to the bottom of your data. Or it's going to copy it all the way to the bottom of the data. So these end up being $0. This isn't wrong, okay, it's just not done yet. Now interest is calculated, and we can just double check to make sure they're doing this correctly. They're taking the balance, they're multiplying by the APR, and they're dividing by 12, which looks good. So we want to copy that formula down as well, so I click in the cell, and then I go to the bottom right corner, and I double click, and it copies that down. And still, it's not correct yet because we haven't copied everything. Now, the reduction in principal would be found by taking the payment and subtracting the interest. So I'm going to copy that formula down as well. So I go to the cell that has the formula in it, I go to the bottom right corner, I double click, and I need to do the same thing with this new balance as well. Now the new balance is going to be found by taking the previous balance and then subtracting however much the principal is reduced by. Because when you make a payment, some of it's going towards interest and the rest goes towards the reduction in principal. So if we take the balance and we subtract how much the principal is being reduced, that's going to give us our new balance. So now I need to go to this cell and copy this one down as well. So bottom right corner, double click, and now everything magically populates. So don't be alarmed with the zeros that kind of show up first, because what you have to do is you have to copy all of the cells in order for this to work. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. You're going to have to copy this all the way down for, I think, the entire lifetime of the loan. So 30 times 15, so you'll have to do that, or 30 times 12, sorry, so you'll have to do 360 months. But it's just as easy to copy. You just go to the bottom right corner, double click. If you want more months, you can have Excel do that for you. I've shown this in previous videos as well, but if I select the 4 and the 5, and then I go to the bottom right corner and I start to drag, it'll count for me. So you'll do that all the way to whatever you want. So if we do 12 months, I can just go to these bottom corners and copy these again. So you'll do the same thing, but for the entire lifetime of the loan. So once you have all of this, we can look to make sure that these answers are making sense. But if you look at the balance, it's decreasing every month, which makes sense. Interest is also decreasing, and the reduction in principal is increasing. So your payments over the course of the loan is going towards principal more than it is towards interest. So the interest should decrease over time, the reduction in principal should increase. Now there are a couple questions in the homework where it asks for total interest, so we could create a formula to help us with that. So if I create a new column over here called total interest, what I could do there, the very first month, I'm going to do an equal sign because I'm going to put an Excel formula in. The very first month, I pay $1,145.83 towards interest. So that's going to go right here. Now the second month, I will have paid this amount right here, the $1,144.58, plus the previous interest, the $1,145.83. So this is kind of a cumulative total interest. Now I have a formula that I can just copy down, and it automatically calculates total interest for me. So I know that over the course of the first year, I paid $13,665.95 towards interest. And if I reduce my APR a little bit, let's change this to 3.5%, you'll see that these values all go down. So everything is just based off of these three cells over here, and when you change any of them, everything else changes. Now, since I made the APR lower, the total interest also decreased. So now that you know how to use this tab, I want to show you how you might be able to create your own in case you're interested in it. You don't have to, but it's kind of cool. So I created this tab over here that is basically just blank. So I've made room for principal, APR, number of years, and then we're going to have to create a formula here for payment amount. So let's do the same value. So let's do 250,000. Let's stick with the 3.5 and 30 years. So I'm going to type that in. I'm just going to go ahead and type it with a dollar sign. 3.5%, I'm going to type the percent sign, and number of years is 30. Now, in order to get the payment amount, I type equals and then PMT, and once I start to type it, it'll pop up here, so I double click on it once I have it. And Excel tells me that the first thing I'm going to put in is the rate. So I'm going to select my APR, and I have to divide it by 12. And then the next thing I put in is a comma, and then I put the number of payments. So this is going to be 12 payments a year times the number of years, which is my 30 years. And then the value I put in as a negative 250,000. And it gives me a payment amount of $1,122.61. If we pop back over here for a minute, this is the same value here. So we did that formula correctly. There are several places on your homework where you have to figure out a payment amount, a mortgage amount, all of that fun stuff. So you're going to type Excel formulas that look a lot like this one. So the balance the very first month is just going to be equals the 250,000. So that's what we're starting with. Now the interest that we pay is going to be found basically the same way that we found finance charges for credit cards, which is where we take the balance, so I select my 250,000 and I multiply by my APR divided by 12. So that gives me interest of $729.17, which matches with this one over here. And then the reduction in principal is going to be found by taking basically the entire payment amount and subtracting the interest. So if you recall, when you make a payment, part of it goes towards interest and the rest goes to reduction in principal. So if we made a total payment, this is what came out of our pockets, of $1,122.61, and we know that $729.17 went towards interest, that means that everything else, which would be $393.45, actually went towards reducing the principal. Now, I don't have a new balance column over here just because we don't really need it. Okay, it's a little bit redundant because the next month, my balance is just going to be found by taking the previous balance and subtracting the reduction in principal. So you'll see that this is going down to $49,606.55, which matches with this new balance the next month. So I can do the same sort of thing where I'm going to copy my formulas down, but if you recall from previous videos, what you'll notice is I want to go to this interest column for a minute. This APR, 3.5%, I want to lock that in place because I want to reference that the entire way down. So I need to put a dollar sign in front of G in order to lock it in column G, and I need to put a dollar sign in row 2 in order to lock it in row 2. So now I'm locked in the 3.5% APR cell, which is my G2 cell. So that's going to stay where it is when I copy it down. Now my reduction in principal, that I want to lock the payment amount because that's never going to change either. So I need to lock G4 into place before I copy that down. Now if you notice, if I go ahead and copy these just one at a time, I'm going to drag this down, and you'll notice nothing is really updated until I fill everything in. And now let's double check, make sure our answers match. So at month 4, we have 248, 816, 22, which is exactly what we have here. So this is essentially the same thing that we have over here, just using slightly different formulas and doing it ourselves since we have all of the tools available to do that. Now I could create a total interest column again. I'm going to make these bold so it's a little easier to see. So total interest, the first month is just going to be this value right here. And then again, the second month, it's going to be the previous month's value plus the new month's value. And we would copy this all the way down as well. So if we look after 4 months, we have paid $2,909.77 towards interest. Now, I'm going to just insert a column here. So in order to insert a column, if you click on the actual column name, and then you right-click and you do insert, it'll put a column to the left for you. So for this one, what I want to do is I want to do total amount paid, okay? And if you think about it, the very first month, it would just be the $1,122.61. Now I'm going to do this times 1 because I just have one payment made. Now, if you think about it, month 2, I would have made twice that payment. So if I copy my formula down, nope, I messed something up. Oh, I see what I forgot to do. I needed to lock H4 into place, okay, because I'm using that same payment amount every month. So I need to put a $sign in H, a $sign in 4. And now if I copy this down, I have a total amount paid. So after 4 months, I will have paid $4,490.45, and $2,909.77 would have gone towards interest. Okay, so that's what that shows me. Now there are other things I could add as well. So what if I want, let's see, what if I want percent going towards interest? So in order to get this, I'm basically taking a part to whole ratio where I have my interest and I divide it by my percent. Now this I would like to format as a percentage, so I just click on the percent key up here and it changes it, so it's 65%. So over the course of basically over the course of this time, 65% of the money that we've paid has gone towards the interest. And this should, let's see, let me make it so we have some more decimals. Yeah, this should decrease over time. So in the beginning it's 64.95%, and then it goes to 64.9, 64.85, and so on. So if we drag this all out, let's see, I'm going to highlight 2 of these rows. I think this will work a little better. And I'm going to drag this out all the way. So I'm dragging it to 360 months. Oops, went a little too far. There we go. So over the course of 360 months, which if we go back real quick, 12 months in a year times our 30 years, that's going to give us our 360. So 360 months, if we look down here all the way at the end, oh, and I want to show you one other quick thing real quick, and that is going to be, if you look here and I start to scroll down, my titles kind of disappear, which isn't nice because I forgot what I created all of these to be. So what you can actually do is you can lock your columns so that, or basically just lock this row in place. It's called freeze panes, so that you can always see the titles even as you're scrolling down. So I'm not sure which tab this is under. Let's try to find it real quick together. Okay, so I think it's under the Layout tab. And this is going to look a little bit different if you're using a Windows computer. But what we're going to do is we're going to freeze panes, and I want to freeze the top row. So I just select that. And what you'll notice is it put kind of like a little bold line under here. And now when I scroll down, I can still see my titles, which is really nice. So I'm going to just scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you can see after 360 months, my balance is now basically going to be 0, because if you look at the balance this next month, I'm going to scroll down one more. I'm left at $0 after that 360 months, which also means that I did it correctly because that last month I'm paying $1,119.35 and I'm reducing the principal by the exact same amount. So my total interest paid has been $154,140.22, and I've paid a total amount of $404,000. So $404,000 on my $250,000 home. This corresponds to about 38.14% going towards interest over the total course of the loan. So even though it's an interest rate of 3.5%, since in the beginning you're paying a lot towards interest and not reducing your principal by very much, it ends up being about 38% over the course of the entire loan. So hopefully this was helpful. You do not have to worry about creating your own, but I also think it's cool. And you can use some of this stuff here to help you answer the homework questions. So if it asks for the percent of the payment that's going towards the interest or the total amount paid or anything like that, you can use these types of functions here in order to help you do that. Basically, you're using Excel like you would use your calculator, but it's much nicer because then you can copy it down for the entire course of the loan instead of having to do each calculation separately. It would be really, really tedious to do something like this for even 1 year, let alone 30. So hopefully this was helpful. Feel free to email me if you have any questions.